I am tired of other influencers lying about ISO 20022 just because they are pretentious douchebags who want to hang on to one detail and think that they are the godsend of crypto info. Yes, ISO 20022 is good for crypto. Any influencer who says otherwise is hard lying to you. I think the common douchebag statement from influencers is, "You have no clue what ISO 20022 really is. Only I do." No, my guy. You have no clue what ISO 20022 is. I'm going to break it the fuck down. It is not a messaging system, for one. And just to clarify and show you to yourself how wrong you are for thinking it is, pay attention to what you think in your own head when you think ISO 20022 is a messaging system. Most likely, you picture a software system that's installed, and your brain may even conflate it with associations like text messaging as a basis for a messaging system. Well, that's all wrong. It's not a messaging system, it's a standard, which I've done numerous videos on this, namely episode 42, Hitchhiker's Guide to ISO 20022. So to clarify, if your brain still associates ISO 20022 to something like text messaging, let's shift that thought over to, let's say, writing messages on a piece of paper. Now let's call that piece of paper your essay. What on this piece of paper is comparable to ISO 20022? MLA format. That is a writing standard, just like ISO 20022 is a standard. It's not a system, it's a standard format for other systems to use. So when people say that XRP is ISO 20022 compliant, it means that Ripple has systems in place, primarily RippleNet, that have adopted that standard for communication, allowing XRP to be utilized with ISO 20022 compliant systems. Can XRP itself be ISO 20022 compliant? You are picking fine hairs here. Is the pencil you are writing with in MLA format? You see how stupid that sounds? RippleNet's integration with XRP and the XRP ledger, which makes XRP the backbone for those ISO 20022 compliant payment systems. There's no other crypto out there that's more closely integrated into ISO 20022 compliant systems than XRP. So you can stand on the XRP itself isn't compliant argument all day. That's not the point. ISO 20022 standard creates the adoption opportunities for crypto to be utilized in compliant systems like RippleNet. You think that your straw man argument means that crypto has nothing to do with ISO 22 compliant because you're right about this one thing. You're wrong about everything. Influencers like this who desperately need to be right communicate solely on ego desperation and has no clue what they're talking about, but desperately need you to believe that they do by attacking other influencers, which I'm sick of seeing. Unfortunately, he's not the only influencer that does this, because apparently I'm doing it right now. So self-awareness is not lost on me here. But that's why I didn't tag any of the influencers that I seen making these comments in this video. I kept them out. But this standard doesn't do anything for crypto. Wrong. Like always, wrong. Let's focus on Ripple as an example. And you'll see why soon. Ripple was the first blockchain company to adopt this standard. Ripple joined as a member of the ISO 20022 Registration Management Group, the technical committee responsible for financial services standards. I think they did it back in 2020. Membership grants them participation in defining the standard's business messaging schema and implementation guidelines. Their role as a member, Ripple helps shape how new types of financial transactions, including those involving distributed ledger technology, are defined in ISO 20022 messages. So if there was never intention of distributed ledger technology integrating and adoption into ISO 20022 standard, why has Ripple been a member for 5 years helping advise on how the standard can better work with distributed ledger technology? The XRP ledger has an amendment called XLS 56, or atomic operations. These atomic operations allow every transaction on the XRP ledger to handle 8 operations per transaction. These complex and coded operations bundle or batch every aspect of a transaction. For example, you want a cross-border payment to someone in the UK for $500. The atomic operation will batch all 8 steps into one transaction. It will lock 500 RLUSD from your wallet, convert RLUSD to XRP, run anti-money laundering and know your customer compliance checks, send XRP across XRPL to the UK, swap XRP to British pounds or stablecoin, which is GBPG, deduct service provider fee, credit the recipient with GBPG, then log full transaction data for audit. That's an example of 8 operations that can be handled in one transaction. If one of those operations fail, the entire transaction stops. That's what atomic operations does. The legacy Swift TM systems couldn't carry that level of data. So that is a real-world technical example of how ISO 20022 better helps integrate distributed ledger technology into the banking systems. Because now ISO 20022, as compared to the older systems, can handle that level of data. And if you don't believe me, fact check me. You can define multi-step transaction chains using group header message identification, instruction identification, end-to-end identification. These can support external atomicity triggers when paired with programmable smart contracts or settlement engines like XRP Ledger. And like I said before, the old systems cannot do this at all. ISO 20022 also supports the use of official DTI codes for cryptocurrencies. If crypto had no place in ISO 20022 standard, why would it be designed to support identifiers made specifically for digital assets? That's because of ISO 24165, another ISO standard built specifically for digital token identifiers, or DTIs. Seems weird, right? That there are other ISO standards out there. I think some of these guys forget that ISO 20022 isn't the only standard in play. ISO 24165 and ISO 20022 work together. ISO 24165 defines and issues DTI codes to crypto tokens, and ISO 20022 allows those codes to be referenced in global payment systems. And just for the record, XRP already has a DTI code. Simply XRP. DTIs enable regulated institutions to list, reference, and trade crypto tokens in standardized formats, just like stocks have ISIN codes. As a bonus, RippleNet also provides a unified API for ISO 20022 compliance. Instead of building different connections for each country, currency, or partner, they just connect once to RippleNet, a unified API, and it handles everything in the background: ISO 20022 messaging, currency conversions, XRP liquidity, compliance, and tracking. Here's an analogy to close everything out. Before ISO 20022, each country or bank had its own roads and traffic rules. Sending money internationally was like navigating a patchwork of unconnected streets with different languages and signals. ISO 20022 paves all those roads into a uniform superhighway with standardized signage and lanes. Now, any vehicle or payment that can drive on ISO 20022 roads can reach any destination with no confusion. Every transaction follows the same rules. This analogy that I'm giving you, RippleNet and XRP are the high-speed trains or electric cars on that superhighway. They clear customs instantly, use almost no tolls. And getting away from the analogies, as more banks adopt ISO 20022, traffic grows exponentially, which is exactly how ISO 20022 will boom the market. By unifying data formats and APIs globally, ISO 20022 effectively plugs crypto and blockchain systems into the mainstream payment rails. Ripple and XRP was and is already the first on that platform. So let's focus on the future now, because things are looking good. We got our typical weekend dip, and on Monday all those systems go live. So let's stay positive and spread that love, because we're all going to have a good year. Wealth, love, and authenticity to you all.